welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone. We are taping the day before our next winter storm, so it's been a busy, busy time here. We've got lots to cover with Mayor Concannon, and then we have a special guest who has done a really amazing Eagle project we're going to learn about. And Gail Kavanaugh is here, and she's going to talk about a free resource that's available, that's a state-funded resource. So lots to dive into. Before we do that, though, I definitely want to remind everyone that we have an open Q&A session, Town Hall, this Thursday, February 15th at 6 o'clock in Council Chambers. We're going to turn the tables on all of you. I get to ask questions every week, and now you guys get to ask questions. So we hope to see many of you there. It will be live broadcast through Woburn Public Media Center, and that information is available on the city website. But I do want to point out that if you want to ask questions, we can really only accommodate those in person, or if you send an email by midday Wednesday, I can try and sneak them in if you can't be in person. So we hope to see lots of people there, and that you come with lots of questions and ideas, and we'll dive right into them. In the meantime, welcome, Mike.
Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm good. You had a very special weekend, family wedding. How are you feeling? Is it, have you worn the high worn off yet?
Yeah, it was a great weekend. My son, John, got married up in New Hampshire. Great bride, wonderful girl. We're very happy to welcome her to our family. And yeah, everyone had a blast. It was a great time. Flew by, as those things always do. So yeah, I was back to work this morning. Maybe I was a little bit logy, but no, it was a great weekend, and we're very happy.
Yeah, I can say you walked in the office bright-eyed as always. So with maybe an extra smile from thinking about all the good wedding memories. I know I mentioned in our intro that we do have the town hall coming up. I didn't know if you wanted to just spend a moment sort of talking a little bit about what you're looking forward to in that session.
Sure. Yeah, this is something we talked about during the campaign, and you know, we think it's really important to stay connected as much as we can in any number of ways to the community. Obviously, there's the website, and there's people coming in and out of the mayor's office all the time, and there's interaction with various members of city government. But we thought this was a great way to be up close and personal and give people a chance to ask whatever questions they might have, you know, face to face. And I actually am hoping that we get a good crowd. You know, hopefully the weather cooperates, and you know, I'd love to see the chamber full, and I'll stay there as long as it takes to answer any questions people might have. But I really would love to see a big crowd there. We've been out and about, as you know, quite a bit. We've been to the schools and you know, New Horizons and some other places, meeting with the public. And this is just one more of those occasions to interact face to face and ask and answer questions directly. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. And if a lot of people show up, we'll do more. So that's an
Absolutely.
incentive to come. And, you know, I had a couple people call up and say, well, I'm not really sure I have an important question to ask. And that's okay. Like, really, we encourage people to come there. You don't have to have a deep, meaningful question. Come hear what's happening, and if it spurs an idea of a question, you know, ask it. And we'll do our
Even if
best
they
to, it's fun.
if they just want to say hello,
Yeah.
and introduce themselves, and maybe, you know, maybe they're a little uncomfortable in a big setting like that, and they want to have a follow-up conversation, that's fine too. But more than welcome to be there and, you know, listen if that's all they'd like to do.
Great, excellent. So today has been busy scurrying around preparing for tomorrow's storm. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to see, since I started this job, to sort of see all the behind the scenes that happens to get things ready. And I thought it might be helpful for our audience to sort of get an inside look at what you as the mayor do to prepare for storms that are coming our way.
Right. So in addition to all the regular events and meetings that happen during the day today, we also have been, as you say, working behind the scenes, checking the local forecasts, talking with the various department heads to just try to anticipate what it is we're in for and how to respond, and obviously how to prepare. We had a department head meeting down in the chamber at around noontime. Everybody came in, and we had a chance to discuss, you know, how we should be preparing. And this isn't our first snowstorm here in Woburn, so there is an approach, but it just gives everyone a chance to be in the same room and to either bounce ideas off each other or make sure we're on the same page in terms of expectations. Um, and as you know, as everyone in Massachusetts knows, that if you wait long enough, the weather will change. And I can tell you that the forecasts have changed. Not less than a half hour ago, I think we were still expecting 8 to 12 inches of snow. And by the time I went from my office to the clerk's office, there were updated forecasts calling for even less snow than that, perhaps 4 to 8 in our area, and it might change again. So I talked with the superintendent of schools. He will be making his call as to whether to cancel school or not or delay. But he'll be watching those forecasts closely. I think we're all learning more and more about the European model, which apparently the local meteorologists are starting to rely on more and more. And that's the one that called for a reduction in the snowfall amounts. So I think Matt Crowley will be watching those and make his call. We are prepared to deal with whatever comes our way. Police, fire, DPW, the emergency services are well prepared to deal with whatever we get. And, the rest of city government will respond uh, based on the amount of snow and, what comes our way at sunrise.
Great. Thank you for that. And by the time folks are watching this, we'll know what's falling
That's right.
down for sure. And
Yep.
hopefully they will have gotten the alerts and things that are up there. One of the things that we've been working on is updating the city's website calendar. There's always been that. One that existed, but we did a little bit of cleanup to it and cleaned up the subscription process. And we now have a category that's there around elections. And so some of the primary information is now on the calendar. And I would just encourage people who are not subscribed to the calendar and want to keep abreast of when those things get posted to go ahead and do that and let us know what the process looks like now. But I want to dig into a question that a resident had sent in and asked us to pass along to you as part of this week's episode. There was a question around as everyone knows, there are some families in the shelter system, refugees who've been in Woburn, and they've been in Woburn for some time now, and they wanted to understand what impact those residents have had in terms of police and fire resources. And I thought, I know you've been updating with the team regularly on that, and this would be a good opportunity and a good time to share some feedback.
Sure. So as you said, we do meet regularly with the police chief, fire chief, superintendent of schools, building department, just to try to gauge how effective we are being in our response to this most recent issue. I also get on a biweekly call with the governor's office to uh, have an opportunity to ask questions and understand where they are in the process of figuring this all out. And I'll tell you that I asked a question most directly probably a week ago of the fire chief and the police chief. What has been the impact, and are we managing it okay? And the answer was little impact and managing it fine. Initially, the biggest concern I think was the language barrier, and I'm told that we're navigating through that quite well. Neither Chief Kenton nor Chief Rufo expressed any real concerns about that impact. There's enough folks who can speak whatever language is needed to communicate effectively in those times of emergencies, those medical needs. So both the police chief and fire chief said that we're okay on that front. Superintendent of schools has also told us that they are managing the impact in the schools without any significant issues. I did have the opportunity probably 2 weeks ago now of going up to the Alta Vista Elementary School, where a lot of the newer children are students, and I was impressed with how seamless that is running. The teachers are doing a wonderful job of communicating with the kids, assimilating them into the group. The kids are doing fine. So it's all in all, I'd say it's a pretty positive story on how we are managing and dealing with the impact of these, newer Woburnites. So we'll continue to have our meetings. We'll continue to talk with the governor's team so that we can respond as effectively as possible. But all in all, I'd say it's a pretty positive story as of right now.
Thank you. And I know those teachers worked really hard to come up with some great techniques to help those students, really creative things that they've done. We're very fortunate to have everyone in the community rallying to
Yes.
help those young people. We talking of schools, this is a really old school that is now gone. So we've talked in the past on this show certainly about the old Plimpton School. It looks beautifully gone, which we don't always celebrate coming down of a building, but in this case, it was long overdue and is now the space is cleared, and the intention is to use it from open space. I was at a community meeting of some of the neighbors from that area, and they were really excited about the fact that progress has been made. And they talked about something, Article 97,
Right.
as a more permanent designation of that space as protected land that can't be used for commercial purposes. And I don't know that there's a lot of people who know what Article 97 is, but I thought I would just ask for your thoughts on using that space in that way, and kind of, what that process might look like for what we know today.
Yeah, so Article 97 pertains to the state constitution. It allows for the protection of particular lands for open space so that they would not be developed in the future. And we do have Article 97 land within the city of Woburn. Um, I know there's always a demand and a request for more open space. This is a permanent way of protecting that type of land. I do know that some of the folks in the neighborhood around the Plimpton School are requesting that the city council take a look at whether it's appropriate to designate this land as Article 97. I know Council President Dillon is meeting with those neighbors and working with them, and I'm going to defer to the council uh, how and when they want to approach that issue. And I'm sure the neighbors would have an opportunity to weigh in, as would other members of the community. There's obviously the pluses are that the land is protected and not built upon going forward. Downside, if there is any, is simply that that land it's not available for any future needs that may arise. So again, I'll defer to the council and let them go through their process if and when that Article 97 idea is brought up. But I think in this particular case, given the neighborhood and the prior use, it's probably appropriate
Mhm.
to at least strongly consider an Article 97 designation.
And it's a relatively small plot of land also.
Right.
Even though it had been a school, it wasn't it's not sprawling. So thank you for weighing in on that. I know people were curious. Thanks for joining us, Mike. I know it's a busy afternoon as we prepare to send out information around updates and some of those storm things. Thank you for
Right.
joining us.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Excellent. Next up, John, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. So John, I'm really glad that you've joined us today. We've been really blessed in our community that we have a very active Eagle Scout community who does amazing projects that we all get to benefit from. Congratulations on completing your mini pantry. I'd love to sort of know where the idea stemmed from. How did you, what motivated you to do this?
So the main inspiration was probably an earlier Eagle Scout who's now, I think, living in New York somewhere. He did his Eagle project, which was the mini libraries that
Mhm.
are getting pretty popular now. So I helped him with those, and I thought that it was a good idea, and I wanted to do something similar that had maybe food, because everybody can use food. And I really wanted to do a project that could benefit literally anybody who wanted it or needed it. So
I,
that was
I
the
think
main.
I love that. And tell us where it's located.
Um, there are two. One of them is located at the United Methodist Church on Main Street, and the other one is located at the Boys and Girls Club right by the main entrance. So
Great locations where lots of people come and go, so that's super helpful. I know that the pantry is designed to help people. Tell us a little bit about who you've thought of in terms of who can take things and who can stock it.
honestly, really anybody, like anybody who like obviously in mind, I had like people with like who are maybe insecure with like food,
Hmm.
and some like if they didn't have enough money to really spare for a meal, they can just go there, grab something, and uh just like available just 24/7, really anytime that you need it. You can just go up to it, take something out, and for people to stock it, really anybody, as many people as they can, I think would be amazing. Like if you have food that you don't really use, like non-perishable food specifically, stuff that won't
Yeah,
like go bad that or needs to be refrigerated. Um,
yeah.
like I just dropped some stuff over there because we had some like goods, the canned goods that we hadn't used. And so we just went, dropped them off in there. If somebody who needed them or wanted them could just pick them up. So really anybody just drop stuff off
That's
as
a
they.
great way to avoid waste. I love that. So, I know, so there's it's non-perishable food that doesn't need to be refrigerated. I think it's really important for people to know. Are there other kinds of things that are particularly good for donating, things that people can easily consume and use?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like toiletries and stuff, like deodorant, like we just dropped off some deodorant in there earlier, and like toothbrushes, toothpaste, stuff like that. Where like I hadn't even initially thought of that, but other people had brought that up to me, and like, yeah, that's perfect. Like other toiletries, stuff, consumables that people really need, pretty much anything. Like we.
That's a great idea. And some often those things, if you're struggling to buy food, purchasing deodorant or toothpaste and things are sometimes luxuries and difficult to squeeze into a tight budget. So that's a great thing. And they don't ever go bad. So those are awesome things to have there. I imagine so sort of snack things and things that are easy to prepare are awesome. Thank you, John, for your work in doing that and for bringing it to our community. I drive by one of them quite often, so I love to see it full and people making good use of it.
Yeah, me too. I drive by it every once in a while, and I'm glad that it's already getting so much usage. And it's like, well, I just checked in on them today, and they already have tons of food and stuff in them, which is great. I'm very
That's
happy.
great. I love that. Thank you, John, so much. Next up, Gail. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Samantha. Thank you for having me.
So I love when we can introduce resources that are free for the community and really meaningful. And the Behavioral Health Helpline is one of those things that's an incredible resource and something that I didn't know very much about until Gail was kind enough to pop in the office and tell me all about it. So I'm glad we met. It is a state-funded resource. Tell us a little bit about who the Behavioral Health Helpline is designed to serve.
So it's the Massachusetts Behavioral Health Helpline. It's part of the governor's roadmap for behavioral health reform. And it really started with Governor Baker in about 2019, was the beginning. And then COVID happened and it slowed things down a little. And it's, followed into this new administration. But we are funded through the Department of Mental Health, and it's a primarily helpline for substance use and mental health. Although we do have access to community resources as well, meaning food banks, like you were just talking about, or grief support groups, or peer support groups, or diaper banks, or things like that, where people, it's not really a mental health or substance use need, but it's something that they need to bring comfort or to make the situations that they're going through a little easier. So we do have those type of community supports.
Excellent. Now, when somebody calls the helpline, or, I shouldn't say only call because you can call, you could text, you can do an online chat. So there's lots of ways to communicate for people that might be more comfortable for them. Who answers the phone? Like, what are the type of people who are on the other side?
So when you call the helpline, you're connected to a master's level or bachelor's level clinician that's trained in crisis intervention and de-escalation. And so they're all trained they use the Columbia rating scale to do a risk rating assessment on the individual. So the Columbia scale is basically the same scale that the VA uses on their hotline. It's an evidence-based hotline, evidence-based rating scale, so we can see where the person is at the time of the call.
That's great. That was one of the things that was impressive to me was the training and the skill of the folks who are on the other line. The other thing that really I was very excited about in our conversation was that it's not just about that initial interaction, that there's some ongoing support to make sure people have the resources and access to the care they need. Tell us a little bit about how you follow along with patients and callers.
So we are different as a helpline in that we do follow-up calls with the individuals that call the helpline, and that's sort of based on the rating scale as well. So if it's like a routine question, you know, about food banks or things like that, we do follow up within 10 to 14 days. If it's a more urgent situation, maybe someone has, you know, has to have a prescription issued, or they've lost their prescription, or they're maybe starting to feel like they might be headed towards a little more of a crisis situation. Those calls we follow up 48 hours, and then for the urgent and emergent needs, we are either staying on the phone or we're calling every hour until we know that person is taken care of. So we do those follow-up calls, which is unique to the helpline.
That's great. Now, if I don't have insurance, can I call this helpline and will you be able to assist?
So the calls are covered. The initial call and any crisis intervention is covered by Mass Health. If you have Mass Health, all the core services are covered. And then we don't do an insurance match per se, but we're not going to send anybody to someplace that they don't want to go that maybe their insurance isn't going to cover. So we are going to try and get them to a provider that's going to, be able to work with the insurance that they have.
Excellent. And then before I let you go, I want to ask two more questions. So
Sure.
one of the things that is available through this service is extensive language support. Tell us a little bit about those capabilities.
So the helpline has interpreter service available for 200 languages. So you can call even if you're not an English speaker, and you have to call. You can't use the text or chat feature if you need an interpreter. You do have to call the number, which is 833-773-2445. But you have to call that number and you can be connected to an interpreter that speaks the language that you need to get the message across. And then our printed material, which is all free through the Mass Health Promotions Clearinghouse, it comes printed in 13 languages. So if you wanted printed material, that is available in many different languages as well.
That's great, Gail. Now, thank you for sharing the phone number, and we'll make sure that that's on the screen. Our crack producers always do a great job of that. But if somebody just wanted to explore a little bit more about the program, is there a website or someplace else that they can go to learn more?
Yep. So you can go to masshelpline.com, and that'll bring you to our website. That's where you'll find the chat feature. And we do have a forward-facing dashboard now. This is new. And it's BHHL dashboard, and that will show statistics from the last quarter. It's updated quarterly, so if you're into like statistics and numbers and things, that is where to find those numbers available.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gail, and thank you all for watching. As always, please continue to take good care of each other.